Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This will be a continuation of my little video I did yesterday or the day before about BEE and gender equity and how these two things are not necessarily beneficial for the country, specifically South Africa, but any country that practices affirmative action. I'm basically gonna just outline further how privileging people based on the color of their skin or their gender cannot be a good thing. Okay, and what we first highlighted was that there are benefits, of course, because people who were formerly underprivileged or disenfranchised due to racial oppression, like in the case of apartheid, where white people dominated and did so through legislation, it does seem to make sense to introduce counter legislation to redress the injustices of the past. That being said, of course, we noted that one of the key factors that sort of drive an economy and the private sector especially, and should actually drive the public sector to government, is productivity. Okay, the ability to have the best people do the job, so to make good use of the human resources, human capital available in a country would be to try to get the best people, the best brains, the best of everything, of everyone, in particular roles, jobs, to help make the country more productive. So one of the major problems with BEE is that because it stipulates that black people should be hired by law, in certain positions and given certain ratios, etc. When it comes down to it, and you have, for example, a black professional and a white professional, for example, and it turns out that the white professional in that particular instance is more capable or more qualified for a particular position. In the situation of BEE, the black professional would be chosen over the white professional in that instance. Now, why that doesn't work is because essentially, with the economy and with businesses, the most important thing is the bottom line. The most important thing is making a profit. Productivity. In science, it would be, providing viable solutions, making breakthroughs, etc. And if you're gonna be depriving your best brains because of the color of their skin, then you are actually robbing the country from progress. So on a that sort of level, BEE and similarly gender equity doesn't work, because if, for example, in a company, of the people that are being interviewed, both men and women, it turns out that men are more suitable, or more men are suitable for the job than women for a particular job. Let's say in the mining sector, let's say in engineering, and jobs that require a lot of physical exertion and heavy lifting. Let's say men are more suitable for those jobs, more so than women. It makes financial and economic sense to hire men, more men than women. So basically what I'm saying is we should forget about BEE, we should forget about gender equity, and we should function on merit, okay? We should function on hiring the best people for the job. Simple, and also more suitable for a country that wants to progress, in that we will have the best players, the best brains, the best athletes, uh, and so on in every uh, job function, in every career, in every sport, and basically we'll shine as a country. Um, and we will find naturally that there will be a diversity. You know, it's going to be multiracial because we are a rainbow nation. And uh, it will also overturn some very strong negative stereotypes that we have in our country, that are reinforced by putting unqualified people in positions that they don't deserve or that they have not earned, through, you know, displaying the ability to actually fulfill the function, the job function. So merit is the most important. Okay, so having said that, while we acknowledge the noble goals for BEE and gender equity and the attempt to try to redress the injustices of the past, um, let us focus on ways that we can redress the injustices of the past viably without racial discrimination, affirmative action, and these racist and sexist ideas of BEE and gender equity. And so let us focus on that for a minute. In my sort of analysis of the situation is that the problem you're facing in South Africa, you know, is white privilege, basically. When it comes to BEE, the problem that we're trying to deal with is white privilege. That's the real problem. That's the problem we are not mentioning, but it's sort of implicit in why we would need something like BEE. And that's what we should do. We should be breaking. We should be breaking white privilege. And the way we break it is not by creating black privilege. The way we break it is by creating an equal play field. Okay? And the way government can do that is by offering high quality, free public education. In the public education system, we should have the highest standards of education. When more people, South Africans, that cannot afford private schools, which are the vast majority of South Africans, most of us black, can have access to free education, free high quality education, it sets us on an equal footing to compete with the necessary skills and merit the positions we get. Okay, it will also help increase our self-esteem in that no one can tell us, oh, you know, you only got this job because you're black or you're brown, or yeah, he's just a stupid colored or stupid black person that got the job because of the government. I mean, I want to know when I'm working in a position that I earned it, that I'm there because I outbidded everyone else because of my skill and not because the government said so and they had no choice because there was a quota for brown people and I happen to be brown or black and therefore I got the job. That doesn't fly by me. I'm sure no self-respecting, dignified human being would want to be discriminated in that way because it undermines your ability, basically. And that's what I'm saying. Not only does it undermine your ability, in the long term, black privilege or gender privilege, these sexist and racist laws, also will perpetually weaken and undermine a whole race. And why it does that is because we begin to, human beings naturally adapting to situations and adapting to the laws, we begin to rely on our privilege as black people, and we then no longer work as hard as we should work in order to earn the right to have something. We rely on the privilege that has been granted to us in legislation. And that's why legislating privilege on the basis of race or gender is a bad idea. Okay? You will have women in positions simply because they are women and not because they earned the right to have those positions, which then in turn uh, actually serves as a way to demotivate women to actually achieve their full potential, because now they no longer need to achieve their full potential because they are not competing on an equal playing field. They're not competing equally against men, but they are being privileged by the law just because they're women. So that's gender discrimination. And I know many people would see it as a good thing for women, but actually it's a bad thing, because you are basically creating a society where you are reinforcing the idea that women have to be sort of insulated from the harsh reality of the world. And isn't that what you claim patriarchy has done for centuries, and why women's voices have not been heard? So basically doing the same thing through modern legislation. You are playing into the very same narrative that you are opposing or claim to be opposing. So equal playing field, best people to do the job. The way that you set up the playing field equal, you boost education. You boost education, you give people who were formerly underprivileged and discriminated against by white privilege opportunities to build their own businesses and to compete in brains and manpower and ability with everyone else. And then also you break the nepotism and the white privilege that is still currently happening in companies in South Africa. And so to end off, I want to tell you about a company I worked for. It's not the company's fault, by the way, but I worked at a company, Amazon. And when I'm saying Amazon, I'm talking about Amazon in Cape Town. So this probably doesn't have to do with Jeff Bezos' employment policies or any of his representatives in other countries. But in Cape Town specifically, I remember sitting in a public meeting that they had, and because a CEO from the United States of America, who happened to be an Indian guy, and Asian American, I guess you would call it, coming to the call center, and we had this public meeting, and it was kind of ironic because I have been out of the South African working market for a long time, so I kind of forgot about these racist stuff, this racist kind of white privilege stuff that happens in South Africa, in the corporate world especially. So that was the furthest thing from my mind. And I was sitting in this public meeting. There were hundreds of us, literally, sitting on chairs. And on the stage were the managers, okay? And when you looked at the picture of the managers on the stage, maybe there were about 20 of them or so, they were all white. Literally, they were all white. And the CEO from the United States of America was the only brown guy on the stage. So I looked at that and I thought, wow, that's interesting. All the workers, the low-level workers, are black or brown. In the South African sort of demographics of race definitions, you could be black, but black refers to people who are black in color, and brown or colored refers to people who are brown in color. And not like in America. When I lived in the United States, I was considered black, and I still think of myself as black. But in South Africa, I'm not considered black because I'm not black enough to be black, but I'm not white enough to be white. Kind of in the middle, we are supposedly called colored, which I don't accept these race definitions anyway. But that was the situation, and I'm pretty sure that all those people who are managers are not necessarily more qualified than many of the people who were the low-level workers, and I'm sure that being white had something to do with it, because one of the floor managers mentioned that, you know what, I'm white, I'm white, I'm the floor manager because I managed a bar in the UK. And I looked at him and I thought, come on, you can't be serious. So that's what qualifies you? That's not what qualifies you. What qualifies you is because you're white. Because a lot of people here are far more qualified than you are. So there is that kind of thing in South Africa happening, the white privilege thing, and I think that's what government needs to focus on and try and break. And the way you break it is not BEE, but to insist that people are hired on merit, and that is not happening in the corporate world. Thank you very much.